Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Today we're taking a quick trip in the Tardis to visit the second Doctor.
It's Who Classic.
Today's episode is Tomb of the Cybermen. It's written by Kit Pedler, the unofficial science advisor to the show at the time, and Jerry Davis. It originally aired on the 2nd of September through the 23rd of September, 1967, and it was directed by Maurice Berry, and episode 4 received the highest ratings, 7.4 million viewers.
I was a week old when this show aired.
Oh,
so I give it 4 spit-ups.
The Doctor is played by Patrick Troughton, Jamie is played by Fraser Hines, and Victoria is played by Deborah Watling. First impressions.
Hi, this is Frank. I like the whole storyline. I thought it was a good storyline. So very impressed with it. I'm liking the second Doctor a lot more the more I actually watch his episodes, because a lot of them were lost and I don't even have a lot of memories of him. But he's very Charlie Chaplin, that tramp, kind of the goof, but knowing what's going on and just playing that the Columbo role, to just disarm people. But you can see in a lot of this, he knows what's going on. Right. And he's setting them up to, I'm giving you an option, you're trapping yourself. Okay, now I know for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
Cool.
Hi, this is Auburn. Yeah, I think overall I enjoyed it as well. I know I was warned a little bit about the production values, but like Frank said, the story was pretty solid. I mean, I grew up watching like old Star Trek, The Next Generation, Power Rangers. So I'm used to seeing people in bad suits and suspending my disbelief. So I got over that. But it definitely felt like an episode of Doctor Who. Watching it, I felt if it was condensed to an hour-long format, it could fit in the lineup today.
Hey, this is Josh. Yeah, I was actually surprised how engaged I was.
Nice.
Everything that you were saying, too, about the production value, you just sort of take it for what it is, but you get a kick out of it at the same time. But when I was a kid, any slow-moving, impending threat, like zombie-like, used to scare the heck out of me. So I think if I was a kid, even watching this now, it would have really creeped me out, especially it being in black and white and stuff. But I like the second Doctor. This is the first thing I ever saw of him, and your explanation, Frank, you were just talking about, that's a good sum up. But it totally felt like an episode. I did think they sure stretched out some of those shots.
Yes, they did.
It probably just the way they did it back then.
Hi, this is Brian. I really love this episode. I think this is one of the best episodes of the classic series. And the second Doctor is really one of my favorite Doctors. I really like Patrick Troughton, the way he handles the Doctor, and the way, not only the way he says his dialogue, but just his reactions when other people are talking are great. You can always see that he's, as the Doctor is thinking, and he has pretty much figured out most people before all the rest of the characters, and you can just tell it by the way he looks at them.
Hi, this is Eugene. I own 2 copies of this story, so I do enjoy this one.
So do I.
It's fun. I like the Cybermen, so it's great that we're going to get the Cybermen again and the second Doctor.
Well, I do want to say that sorry that Kelsey and Arlene can't be with us today.
Right,
Yes.
they can't.
Because I want to hear their points of view on some of these issues that come up in this.
Oh, I'm sure they would have had some things to say about it, because this is definitely of its time.
It's like we need that right now for this. But
The Doctor and Jamie welcome their new companion, Victoria, into the Tardis. They travel to planet Telos and meet a group of archaeologists who are attempting to locate the entrance to the buried city of the Cybermen. Professor Perry and his crew blast rock away from the entrance to find a set of large doors. When one of his crew tries to open the doors, he is electrocuted. Captain Hopper and some of the crew take the body back to the rocket.
I think it's a nice introduction. They're walking right into the TARDIS, and Victoria is a new companion, so they're explaining to her about the TARDIS. And I think it's just nicely done. This is also where he mentions for the very first time how old he is.
Was it really? That's the first time?
Yeah, so he's 450 years old, approximately.
I find it interesting that the Cybermen have been dormant and dead for over 500 years. So the Doctor's younger than the whole Cybermen. It's just the whole time travel aspect of him going back, dealing with them, but in his chronological life it's 450, and this whole period is
Right.
no Cybermen for 500.
Had the first Doctor encountered them?
Yes, he encountered them in his last serial before he regenerated into the second Doctor,
Oh, okay.
the 10th planet.
The Doctor mentions that he like tech speak about how
Right.
he basically created the whole time travel situation. Which
Well, that's talking to Victoria, so we can talk a little bit about who Victoria is. Victoria Waterfield, she's from 1867, and in the last episode, which is the series finale, season 4, which is
Yeah.
the second Doctor's first season, was Evil of the Daleks, and he meets Victoria's father, who was actually trying to make a time machine. So that whole storyline is he's making a time machine using static electricity and mirrors. But mirrors plays a kind of a thread throughout some of the other episodes, and there's turn left, and they use mirrors coming up in another episode, get to from one world to another and deal with time travel and all that. But to get Victoria to understand what's going on, he's relating it to what her father was working on.
Oh, okay.
So that's like he's perfected this without going into the whole detail of Time Lords, without going into the whole detail of a whole different race that already has this technology.
Right,
So-
right.
Also, is this the planet of Telos or the city of Telos?
For this, it's a little convoluted, the origin of...
Maybe Telos is the capital city of Telos, the planet.
like New York, New York.
Because
Yeah.
in this serial, they refer to it as the city of Telos, but in future episodes, it's the planet of Telos, and so now it's just kind of become known as the planet of Telos.
Which is not where the Cybermen are from. They're from Mondas, but we'll get to that.
I also thought the introduction of the team was a bit weird because Toberman was off on his own looking around, and the other team members were like, you
Yeah.
know, get your head down. Why? You're being exposed out in the open, but we're screaming our heads off, and there's supposedly not going to be any consequences to that.
I thought it was because the blast was going to go off soon, and he was near
Yeah.
it.
No, that could be.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it was just used for like dramatic effect, even though we find out in the next scene, like, oh no, he's not sinister. It's the explosion for
Yeah.
uncovering the
I think that's it too. Like this big guy hulking around seems scary, and then all of a sudden, normal people are just yelling at him. I found it funny. Everyone's dressed in futuristic outfits, and one guy has a plaid shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his dress from Old Navy.
And it looks
Plaid
like
in the-
shoes you'd wear today. Like,
I know.
What archaeological expedition dresses like this?
Well, they hit
the
it.
actor
They-
just showed up in that for work, and they went, okay.
Yeah, right.
They got
But
the
I do
2017 styles down from the 60s.
Is that what year it was supposed to be? Wait, did they even say what year it was
I mean,
supposed
if
to
they
be?
were
future.
future dressed, they
It's
did look
future.
very modern. Like
Yeah.
they didn't look 60s
No.
or 70s dressed.
Except for the hair.
Except for the hair.
I did like that the stock explosion actually matched
Yes.
the surrounding rock this time rather than what happened in Time Warrior.
And when they're outside, they shoot it differently on film.
On film,
And I thought
yeah.
the captain was better, and his
On film?
his American English was better, and then it gets a little more overly dramatic.
Who knows?
as the
Yeah,
series
that's
goes
fine. I
on.
kept making notes out of the Americanisms he kept saying. It was obviously written that way. If it was an American show and we had a British guy on it, he would have been saying pip pip and cheerio and blimey.
I reckon.
They wouldn't have done it, but I kept expecting him to be like, oh, for Christ's sake.
We did. They said he does say at one point, "For Pete's sake."
Yeah, for Pete's sake. That's true. He does say that. Yeah. Well, you tell him.
Do we know if that guy was British or
He was from Austria.
Austria? Oh my gosh.
Apparently by way of the Bronx. The doctor confirms the electricity is no longer a threat, and they gain entrance to a large control room. There are 2 additional doors leading out of the room, as well as a large closed hatch. Professor Perry decides to divide them into 3 smaller groups to search the building more efficiently. He stays in the main control room with the doctor and Mr. Klieg. They figure out a way to turn on the power, but the doctor is worried that the Cybermen may not be dead after all.
Oh yeah, I also noticed when they were climbing up to go to the door, they showed that whole
Yep.
shot.
It's all
of them
one
climbing.
shot.
Like, wow, we got this location. Let's just get the whole shot of them climbing.
It's like the door was on a side of a mountain with no ledge, and they're all standing together on the ledge. So it's like, okay, but it's just production at the time.
And then there was one
It's
like
not a big deal.
when they walked up to it. It was
Like a process shot.
it was a process shot, and then they were there, and I was trying to. And then I realized later on when they're at the door, it's filmed on video. When they're that process shot, it was filmed on films.
Yeah.
I started to figure that out in the last episode. Like, oh, that's why they shot it in that sequence and stuff like that. But
Because someone's on location. someone's in the studio.
And there was one bit too where the I think it was the skinny scientist. He points to look at something, and it's the camera is by the door, so you're seeing out. And he points, look up there, but then it cuts to the other way, and he quickly turns around so he doesn't jump cut, because literally he was pointing at the door, but he's supposed to be pointing up on the mountain. But since he was in the same place on screen, and so it wouldn't jump, when it cut, he was facing the door. And he just quickly pointed up there.
Wow.
So in a way, I thought like, well, they worked with what they had, and they did a pretty good job of it.
In the commentary, there it was Jamie and Victoria, I think, that were both on the commentary for this serial, and they were saying how they had to do long takes. That's why you see a lot of those. Though they don't move or not move, but they don't cut. I mean, and when they flub a line, they continue moving.
I noticed a lot of flubs.
Yeah.
Because I think the limitations of video editing at the time wasn't what it is today, so they just had to power through if something went wrong.
Especially when an actor doesn't realize that somebody's going to be saying a line. Like, I have 2 lines. There's supposed to be a line in between.
Yeah.
And they forget. And so they start talking, but then the other actor's like, wait, I need to say my line. And then they just...
keep going.
They don't redo the scene.
A couple times, though, it kind of made it seem a little more natural.
Agreed.
I mean, knowing that now and knowing that they were told just keep going, everybody stayed in character, and it never really felt awkward. Only once did I see someone go, oh, like that, like they stopped themselves from talking.
I mean, we talk over each other because...
Right.
And that sort of added a naturalness to it.
Yeah.
I mean, yes... wait for your line when you wait for your cue, but I liked it because it worked that way.
But we're also an editor's nightmare. Isn't that right, Eugene?
Auburn?
There's a couple of lines here of the second Doctor that I really love. When one of the team says to the Doctor, when they're trying to figure out who these people are, and says, well, you're an archaeologist. I can just tell.
Yeah.
And I love the Doctor's reaction. Really? Does it show? It's just, I like that. And then there's another one where he's they're going around the room and they're looking at everything. And, you can tell that the Doctor's already figured these people out. And he just has that one line, I love to see experts at work. With just a little bit of, bliss. I just like that this Doctor is aware. I love his reactions. Watch Patrick Troughton in the background. He's always the most interesting person to be looking at.
There are other lines that I really like, such as they say, there's only the one door that we came in. Yes, of course. And the other 2 that are there. And then Clegg asked, what's your special technique? And he goes, keeping my eyes open and my mouth shut. So it's a burn, and it's a great line.
I do kind of like that all the people here know the Cybermen.
And they want to seek them out.
Well, they know they're dangerous, but, human beings would still explore and still want to learn and see what technology that humans can use and adapt. Rather than the humans just stumble across something and they don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tried to equate it to the Egyptians or something. Like when we would go into the tombs, no one worried about the Egyptians coming to life.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So...
And we didn't worry about the curse.
Right.
That then killed everybody.
Yeah. Mold.
Yeah, mold.
Toxic mold.
Good archaeologists you are. It had mold.
Victoria, Miss Captain, her guard Toberman, and Mr. Viner enter one of the doorways and find a Cyberman recharging room. Miss Captain sends Toberman on a secret mission. Then she uses the controls to trap Victoria in a Cyberman recharging bay. Before she can complete whatever plans she has, the Doctor arrives and frees Victoria.
Did you notice how they cut away because Victoria couldn't have gotten in there because of her skirt?
Yeah, because of the way the shape is. Yeah. Again, this is where we see the cardboardy sets, because when they're banging on the door, it's obviously like plywood. I wish they would have done some sound design, just something else.
Yeah. Even when Toberman opened the big heavy door, he kind of pulled it off until he let go of it, and it wobbled like it was light.
Like you said, he does a great job acting like that door is heavy until he doesn't touch it, and then it starts to like float in the breeze.
I just love how this is Borg 1.0.
Yes.
I mean, this is so, you can totally tell that the Borg were kindly and homage.
You mean a ripoff?
Yeah, not kindly. It would be a ripoff. I mean, it's a regeneration chamber, alcove. I just laugh going, I knew that they were influenced by the Cybermen. I never had any idea how much.
Right.
At the time watching it, I was surprised that they would just jump to rejuvenation thing, and maybe that's because there's more history with the Cybermen that I was unaware of as a viewer. But they might have had, as archaeologists, like that, knowing the Cyberman life cycle, that they had this rejuvenation chamber. But my first thought in a tomb or any place like that would have been sacrifice
Right.
chamber.
Because they do make it look very Egyptian-like with
and
the
it's
writing.
very ominous, or like a transformation chamber. But
Yeah.
they get into that a little bit by the end, but not as much, I think, as we do in our current. I don't know if any other classic series, the Cybermen had such total
I don't think so.
assimilation. No,
It was
Okay.
more of what we see now.
Okay, but yeah, so it was just interesting to me how the immediate assumption was rejuvenation chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like you said, apparently they've been studying the Cybermen, so they.
Or just a quick way for exposition. This is what it is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's
We
a
don't
good
want to go
point.
into it too much because we don't want to waste the time on it.
Yeah, the Doctor does do that with the Cybermet, which we haven't gotten to, but it's very quick. So maybe that's their way of doing that too
Yeah.
for this thing.
Yeah. I also thought that some of the acting was actually quite good. The guy who plays
Yeah.
Krieg, and then the not the American captain, but the head scientist or whatever he was.
The
The guy with the
Perry.
The
beard?
guy with the beard, like
Yeah, he's
they were
Professor
both
Perry.
like they were selling what they were thinking and feeling, and even with some of the hokey dialogue, like I didn't feel it dumbed down, and I didn't feel it very stagey. The only time I felt things like that is when there was blocking and they had to like, do things like that.
Yeah.
But and it reminded me of the shows now, where it's just like the acting sells the silliness a lot of the time, and even of that time, like 'cause, some of the acting is stagey, just because that's how television acting was. I felt they were very real.
Agreed.
Just playing off that, Josh, I also thought at this time I started noticing Jamie and the Doctor's relationship. Like when they first enter, they kind of grab each other's hands by
Yes.
mistake and drop it.
Yeah.
And I think there's another thing even in the part where we're at now where you see their character together.
Yeah.
And I don't know Jamie, I don't know the second Doctor.
Yes.
But I feel like I really understand their relationship through the few interactions they
yeah.
have.
Yeah, there's a comfort level there that we've been discussing in the modern show of how long, Rose becoming comfortable with the Doctor. We're already seeing a
Jamie.
companion Doctor relationship that's already at that comfort point.
Well, even Jamie in the beginning says this is how we fly the TARDIS.
She's like, fly?
Yeah, I also love that where he's also teasing the Doctor in that opening scene where he's like, don't scare her, just take off, don't make it shaky.
Smooth takeoff.
And the Doctor gets insulted, going, "Smooth takeoff? Like, how dare you suggest such a thing?" So you can kind of see that these two people are really comfortable with each other. We didn't really talk about Jamie.
But you have heard of him before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jamie is a Scottish Highlander that the Doctor picked up on one of his travels. He's from
1746.
Oh, really?
Yes. He was picked up at the Battle of Culloden. But Jamie is a very, very popular companion, and he was with the Second Doctor throughout almost the Second Doctor's entire run on the show. And we recently did the episode about Tooth and Claw, where the Doctor and Rose meet up with Queen Victoria.
In Scotland?
In Scotland, the Doctor introduces himself to Queen Victoria as Dr. James McCrimmon.
Which is Jamie.
Yeah, I gotcha. You have to spell that out for me.
We're redoing, so.
Jamie and Mr. Hayden take the other doorway and find a lifeless little mouse-like cybermat. With the power restored, Hayden starts to pull levers, activating a light panel on the wall. Jamie is hypnotized by its swirling pattern. Hayden switches the device off and Jamie is back to normal. Wondering why the Cybermen would need something like that, Hayden has Jamie turn it on again so he can analyze it. The Doctor and the others rush in and try to turn off the device, but are too late. A Cyberman appears before the light wall. A power gun emerges from the other side of the room and shoots towards the Cyberman, but hits Hayden instead, killing him.
The Cybermats. This is our first introduction to the Cybermat. And we also get introduced to that wonderful sting every time we see a Cybermat. The musical cue is so blatant.
It kind of reminded me of City Eels from Wrath of Khan.
But the interesting thing about the Cybermats is that the Daleks were so popular merchandise-wise that they tried to make a Cybermat similar. This is a thing that's going to be a toy because they weren't introduced in the 10th planet, which is the first appearance of the Cybermen. And so I think I don't really like it.
With its little felt
Yeah.
cut out teeth.
So bizarre. And the
eyes.
Yeah.
It's great stagecraft, I will say that.
Well, because they shot those on film when there's a close-up, and then later on it's on video when it's the practical running around. And the sizes shift between what the story needs. So it's just...
Yeah, there's two sizes in the
it's
episode.
so inconsistent.
So yeah, no, they're just bigger ones.
I just don't like it. Because Victoria can put it in her purse, and then the other ones, the Cybermen have to use two hands to hold them.
That's your problem with the production of this episode?
I thought the
I will continue.
idea was that it was like a baby or something.
I don't. Maybe because it's dead, it's shriveled up and it's smaller, and then the other ones are alive. I don't really know.
And that's the whole thing. They just introduced Cybermats in this episode and don't explain it.
Yeah,
They just say, here, this is it. Later on, they give a little explanation of what it does,
but not
possibly.
a lot.
But just go with it.
Well, it's also like like we said before, the doctor's explanation. Like, that's a Cybermet. That's what that is. Moving on. And he has it from his... Is that his 400-year-old diary or 900-year-old diary that he's reading from? Do you know?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
it
that's-
is just
yeah.
kind of just there.
That's what I thought it was, because what else would he be?
I didn't even notice he was reading from.
Yeah, he looks up Cybermat.
Yeah, it's in his little book.
Yeah, I thought it would be like a field log or something of his travels.
or like the Grail diary.
Yeah.
The doctor recreates the accident and discovers it is a testing room for weapons. Victoria finds the Cybermat and places it in her purse as Toberman quietly tells Captain that his mission is done. Perry decides they need to return to Earth since two men have already died. Captain Hopper arrives and tells them that someone has tampered with the fuel rods, which will take 72 hours to repair. They are stuck here.
I got a kick out of the fellow in the plaid shirt, how his technique to not get hypnotized is
To put up his two
put up
hands.
his hands to
Oh my
filter the
gosh.
hypnotic suggestion.
When every time it's the same hand gesture, like that is
That
the
is-
approved Tai Chi hand gesture to block hypnosis rays.
They taught it in basic training. When attacked by a hypnotic attack,
Put the Venusian Jiu-Jitsu stance.
Oh, the Venetian Jiu-Jitsu or something like that? Yeah. Yeah.
I also thought it was funny that they put the guy with the plaid shirt with the kilt, with the plaid kilt.
It was a clever set design.
Yeah. Other thing I liked, I don't know if it was unintentional or happy accident or intentional, but because of the style of the sets, everything being like base one color and everything and lighter because it's metallic, the doctor really stood out because he's wearing his black clothes. So he you could always see him everywhere. He was very prominent. It's good set design.
Yeah, I
production
do.
design.
I do like some of the black and white stuff because of that fact.
Yeah, it's
because the shadows are super dark, and
they didn't. I don't know how much they thought of the black and white.
The contrast?
Tonally, the contrast.
I like how they don't explain about how the fuel rods were damaged, what happened, but we all know it's Toberman.
Oh
They don't have
Yeah.
to show it
They
to
don't
us.
show
They
it,
don't
yeah.
have to give us a whole, exposition of it. It's she sends him on some mission. You don't know what. It's not really focused on, but you put it together.
But he does walk out when they're on the set and they're having their little scene, and he does walk out sneakily behind them, which is totally going, I am on an evil mission.
I felt he should have reported back to her a little more out of breath because that rocket and the hill, it's just far. But he must be some athlete.
And are we going to discuss how this is the
Racist.
tall racist? Yeah,
I was gonna bring-
racism.
I was gonna bring that up in a minute,
That
too.
it's the tall, well-built black man who apparently can't talk much. I mean, he is basically nothing but muscle.
And then, how about the bad guys are Middle Eastern?
Oh, right. The one scientist, Viner.
I didn't even realize
Is it Viner or
that.
Klieg?
Both of them. And the
Klieg
woman,
and Captain.
both him and the woman had
Oh, yeah,
some
yeah.
sort of Middle Eastern esque ethnicity to them.
Well, Kaftan's accent is quite all over the place, depending on which scene you're in. It's like, oh, okay, well, now you're from London. Okay, great.
But I still like that the group is sort of international, even though
That's what I liked about it, was that it was international.
Even though Klieg or Krieg,
Klieg.
Klieg and the woman, I can't remember her name.
Captain.
Kaftan.
They weren't bumbling. They weren't, they were smarter than everyone else as well. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like a bad depiction of someone.
They just
but-
happen to be the bad guys.
Yeah, it's like in Star Wars, all the Brits, all the Empire of Brits.
Our imperial officers.
Yes.
I like the internationalism of the crew, so I don't see that as bad, except for Toberman. I do feel that
It
was very racist.
obvious. It was very obvious.
Very just. Ooh,
But you never
that's just
know.
not a good.
They may have auditioned a whole bunch of big guys, and he was the best one. You never know.
Yeah, I think the problem that we have today with Toberman's character isn't so much that he was a bad guy, but just how one-dimensional. Like, he was already a Cyberman.
Yeah.
Like, he was already taking orders and didn't have
good
his
point.
own
It's a very good point.
agency. So that's what I find the problem, and I understand it is a product of its time. So I accept that, but just knowing. And also then celebrate how far we've come today with characters like
Yeah.
Mickey and Martha.
Yeah.
And, but we definitely, the past is right there, like
Yeah.
not very far away.
Yeah.
So it's good to be reminded of that.
And we're also seeing the show's sexism too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's on display here.
I was waiting for the captain to call Victoria Toots.
Well, they call her Vic.
They call her Vic.
Hey, Vic. But I still think that's more of a commentary on how casual Americans are rather than a man demeaning a woman.
Yeah.
I just think that the British people are like, Americans are just too informal and they need to just stop that. But the sexism here where it's like, no, Victoria, you're going to stay up here while we go explore.
Yeah.
With the other woman.
But at the same time, it's not complete because there is that moment where the doctor is also like, but you also have to keep an eye on Kaftan because I don't trust her. So he is kind of giving her a job, but it's still like, and I'm giving you this job out of harm's way.
Yeah.
But there is a little difference to it in that there is a main villain who is a woman and a companion, and their fight was not pulling hair.
I almost
I mean, it was
yeah.
gun and everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one more point. Victoria was, no, I'm not staying here. We're going on and looking at the other rooms. It was down in the hatch that they said no, and that's when Doctor said, no, you have to do a job here.
That's true, yeah.
I think if Captain wasn't staying up above, the Doctor would say, no, Victoria's coming with us. And even, Victoria coming from the 1800s
Yeah.
had strength and sass to talk back and later on puts down the captain. Oh, so glad to have a strong man around.
And the captain, there's a great bad American accent in this at this moment where he's like, he comes in and he's like, well, you guys, I'm going to tell you something right now. I mean, that's just so badly done. We don't talk that way. At least not.
Well, he didn't sound Austrian.
At least not in California.
I think from my current understanding of the Doctor Who series, I would have liked to have seen the TARDIS one more time. I think we only had it at the beginning, and then at the end we don't even.
They didn't have it at the beginning. They just walked down from the mountaintop.
Well,
you
No,
heard
at the
the
very
TARDIS.
beginning of the.
We
of
have the interior.
The
Serial?
serial.
Oh, okay.
There is an exterior of it.
Yeah, but I thought you were talking. Yeah, never mind.
But I wish, and I understand with probably the timing and the production values and everything, they couldn't do another scene there, but
you hear it.
Yeah, we never
Yeah.
see the TARDIS enough.
The third Doctor didn't use it at all. He had a car.
But really, it wasn't important. It was just their device to get them somewhere to where the story
so
starts.
they would just mention it and boom, the story's going.
right.
Well, just like when they arrive on Telos, you hear it and they're like, there's a ship landing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to just materialize, but whatever.
I don't know that.
And then when they're walking down that cliff, it's obvious that the Doctor has his back turned so that he doesn't see them.
Oh, right.
It's weird. Whatever.
Well, there's also that stage acting technique, so they're usually in those deep dramatic sequences where it's like, I must turn my back and emote towards the camera while the person behind me continues talking. So that happens every once in a while. And it's like, oh, you couldn't afford a second setup where you get the reaction shots. Okay.
Because the cameras were too big to move, probably.
That could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring it up now since you're talking about the cameras, but later on there's some fight scenes in the same room that are obviously switched to film, like with Toberman and the Cybermen and stuff. And at first I was like, why does that look different? Because it didn't look very different, but it was just different enough. And then I realized, that was probably shot on film.
Because they could.
Because they could.
Yeah.
And that's probably it. Probably because I bet you the film camera was more mobile.
Yes. To take where the
To
action
take
was.
the action shots. There you go. Well, we can't shoot this. Okay, I'm starting to put two and two together. I'm going back to the.
And he's actually getting 4.
3.5.
It's all symbology.
Klieg, with an unknown assist from the Doctor, discovers how to open the hatch. They decide to explore the lower level of the building, but the doctor asks Victoria to stay and keep an eye on Kaftan. The group comes across the frozen honeycomb tombs of the Cybermen. Kaftan drugs Victoria and closes the hatch, trapping the others below. Klieg, in a fake attempt to reopen the hatch, turns on a machine that reawakens the Cybermen. Viner tries to shut it down, but Klieg kills him.
People are dropping like flies. I mean, and main characters in this, or at least
Main guest characters.
yes, who actually have lines and all that, not just the extras are being killed. You know, like we see in Daleks and things. But it's like, wow, they just killed a lot of people in a lot of these.
Like one right off the bat from the door, and then continuing on.
It's like how it was done back then. It was no, this is going to be a dangerous type of story.
I mean, it fits in line with all the emoting or whatever of the tombs of Egypt, or like booby traps and things. So of course it's going to be dangerous.
The shots of the tomb.
Defrosting.
Yeah, the defrosting, the slow motion movement from within the cells, and the plastic wrap being broken.
Cellophane.
It was creepy.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you look at it and laugh at the
staging,
and the silliness of it, but there's also still a creepiness factor. And this is actually a very famous shot when you talk to Doctor Who fans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Doctor Who fans are like, oh, those tombs of the Cybermen they're just so creepy. And even though, when we see it defrosting, it's obviously a quickly done miniature in time lapse. When you actually get closer and the Cybermen are inside behind the cellophane moving around, that's like a 3-story.
Yeah.
That's a big set.
Yeah, the practical is.
I mean, they put a lot of money into that, and you can tell because they linger on it a really long time. But they were like, we spent a lot of money on this. We're going to show people where they're moving around and climbing the ladders, and yes. Is it well done by today's standards? Absolutely not. Is it amazing for what they could do back then? Yes.
Yeah. And two kids or even people watching TV back then, they never really saw anything like that before. So it's
and that's why it's famous, because people who saw it when it first aired, it's stuck in their mind.
Yeah. I think it's funny though that there's like 9 Cybermen are a huge threat to the world.
Well, 10 including.
But whereas now, they even if they shot it even a little bit later, they could have shot the same exact thing, but then just superimposed many more.
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised they didn't do trickery to multiply the amount of Cybermen.
One zombie makes more zombies.
That's
One
true.
Cyberman's going to make more Cybermen.
And that kind of goes to what I was saying early on about how engaged I was. Like, just the idea of these things, like, at first glance, it's like, oh my God, look what they did. They used a miniature and just dissolved from one piece, one less snow covered to the other. But the idea of it kept me watching, and then the way that the actors were selling it kept me watching.
Mm-hmm. Well, a little bit of behind the scenes for that defrosting effect. It was the miniature, like Brian said, and then they would film it, and then they would spray frosting that you get, or the snow that you get on the Christmas trees.
Flocking?
Yeah, they would spray that onto it, and then to defrost it, they reversed it in the film.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, that's simple, but effective.
Yeah. Well, even when at the end, when they were going back into the tomb, it was just
reversed. It's like they really
but it
knew
did
how
look
to.
creepy.
Yeah, like we shot that footage. How can we use it again?
I'll agree with Brian and Josh. I really enjoyed this sequence every time they went to it, and I did. I really loved it. I think the scale of it really was the first time we saw something that felt big with all of them breaking out. That was cool. And again, like the Borg connection today, that honeycomb, the idea that these are more insect-like or like the hive mentality rather than
individuals.
These are individual. Yeah, no, I really liked it. And the music too was really
the
cool.
music's very iconic.
Yes, I really like that music.
Yeah,
they don't bring it back, do they? Like
this is actually brought back from the Moonbase episode, which is the previous appearance of the Cybermen.
But in our current series, I didn't recognize
it's different.
But I like it a lot.
Yeah, but
that's some robot costume. That really, well done. And honestly, it's actually an improvement over the very first time the Cybermen appeared. Yeah, it is.
even the voice is much better.
Yeah,
I found the voice pretty hard to understand.
Yeah,
I'm usually pretty good at hearing voices like that.
I think it was a technology thing where they were like, hey, we can do this on set.
You think that was on set? They did that?
It was on set.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Doctor Who
Really?
does a lot of all the Dalek voices are on set, even to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They have somebody standing off camera going into the modulator and it comes out. And that, they could ADR some of it later, but they actually do film it
Oh, wow.
on set.
Jumping a little bit ahead, because we haven't gotten there yet, when the controller comes out, in the commentary, they said that because you can see his mouth flap
There's
move.
parts, yeah.
Yeah, so the actor was actually moving that to the guy off screen with the voice. So that's how we know that's how it was.
My only big complaint about the outfits, I have two big complaints. These are machines, and the circles around the leader's eyes was like masking tape or black electric tape, and it wasn't perfectly round.
Yeah.
The circle was round, but the tape around it was obviously like
tape.
it was even wrinkled from being pushed around the
That's
circle.
your problem with the production of this episode?
That, and he had these tubes that were all, running up and down him, which looked pretty cool until I noticed that when it reached the top of him, they weren't connected to anything.
Nope.
It was just open. They didn't even put one of those balls that were separating the tubes that
From the
ran the rest of
joints?
them. It was just this open tube.
Those were his ventilation tubes.
All right.
Well, I also think it's
Okay,
'cause
now I'll buy it.
That gigantic pink brain on the top
That's
of his
right.
head needed to be cooled down.
I think it's because we're watching these now on high definition televisions.
Yes.
Where back
Did you notice
then
that stuff?
it was
back
hidden.
then, yeah, it was probably
hidden.
just
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, too, there's one later on in the show. One of the suits was ripped. Like,
Yes,
around the
when
arm.
he's climbing or descending, I think from the ladder, you see it.
Yeah.
You see
Yeah.
the seams.
So I'm sure none of that showed up, especially
No.
with the reception
even
you
think
get
the
with
other-
that kind of
yeah.
snow effect on your regular TV.
Yeah.
Because we always
Nobody's
had
gonna see
static
that.
and snow.
Yeah.
Because on the one that has just this story on the DVD, not the commentary, the special features mention how they did restoration. So that's probably why too. It cleaned it up so we could see more detail rather than what it was
Wires.
back then.
Because there were when they had some of the robots in the foreground, you could see the balls. They were like wiffle balls,
Right.
Which was actually a good idea, I thought. But some of them are crushed, just because from all the shooting. It
Yeah.
was probably something that was shot later.
Yeah, we're seeing this way, way clearer than it was ever intended creatively.
Victoria wakes up and is held at gunpoint by Captain. The Cybermat escapes from Victoria's purse and knocks out Captain. Victoria grabs the gun and shoots the Cybermat. She leaves to get Captain Hopper. Below in the tombs, Klieg explains that he is part of the Brotherhood of Logicians and wants the power of the Cybermen at his control. He thinks they will feel obligated to help him since he is the one who resurrected them. The Cybermen are freed and release their leader, the Controller. Instead of feeling obligated, the Controller states that they will be assimilated. To struggle is futile. The Cybermen...
I heard that before. Someone should write that down.
The Cybermen say they purposely froze themselves to be hidden from the Doctor. He had destroyed their homeworld and their supplies were low. They knew that someday humans would free them. The expedition group are to be the first in a new army of Cybermen who will conquer the Earth.
And that's why there's not that many of them.
I didn't catch that the Doctor was the cause of them
Yes.
doing that.
So real quick, in the serial The Moon Base, they're attacking a moon base. And there's something with the gravity, so the remaining Cybermen are basically lifted off of the moon. And that's supposed to be the last, I think, of all the Cybermen. And then there's this tomb here.
Well, it's also that in the 10th planet, the Doctor destroys Mondas, which is the home planet of the Cybermen. So, they the Cyber Controller says to the Doctor, "You destroyed our planet. We had nowhere to go." And the Doctor says, "Oh, that's why you went to the moon base." Okay, now it makes sense. Well, at the same time, they went, okay, because of the Doctor keeps defeating us, we need to hide.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was retconned. I don't think it was,
Yes.
stated, which I can't really see that episode because a lot of it doesn't exist.
Yeah. 'Cause
The moon base.
There's a couple animated episodes inside the serial.
So I think they just, retconned it to try and get a good storyline that would continue. Because they also said that they're running out of all their supplies and how they can manufacture new Cybermen. That's why I think they also went to Moonbase to get those supplies so they don't have those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
I think the controller is way too plain. I like what the newer controller looks like that we're doing now. I get the exposed brain, but the whole nothing on his chest, it just looks
doesn't look
silly.
mechanical.
Yeah. I don't understand why they didn't do that. And you can tell he's different because he's super tall from all the other Cybermen.
But Yeah, but
Maybe gizmos are like our fat.
Actually, what it probably was is he has less things on him because he's doing the most moving
And the most thing.
and he had to fight, and he had to be thrown, and he had to throw people, and there's no way that kit bashing on the other Cybermen would have survived it.
It looked too plain for me on the chest, but everything else was fine.
Yeah.
They could have done electrical tape designs.
Paper mache is a high technology.
Yeah, they could have taken a magic marker, drawn.
No, we can't afford flour.
They could have done a magic marker. A piece of cinema trivia. If you ever watched Godfather 2, one of the scenes with Hyman Roth, is it Hyman Roth, Lee Strasberg?
I don't remember.
I don't like those movies. They insist.
Well, anyway,
upon
he was wearing a cardigan, a white cardigan with a design on it, and for the shoots they lost it, so they went out and got a white cardigan and took a Sharpie marker, and even drew the buttons on his cardigan are drawn on with a Sharpie marker, and like there's like a little ziggy zag on there. It's all Sharpie, so if you look, you'll see it.
Well, those Cybermats can sure jump, though.
Yes, they can.
Right to her neck. It's like, wow.
It's the felt teeth. Gives you a lot of spring.
Then how many people, I mean, you haven't spoken about it yet, too, but like, how many people pretend to be unconscious in these episodes?
I do have to say, a lot of these classic episodes, I always laugh saying they're really good if you have a fast forward button. I don't find myself fast forwarding this
No,
one.
I thought I was going to get a little bored, and I didn't get bored at all.
Yeah.
But then they have the chase scene where the Cybermen are going to get you all.
Yeah.
They all start running past the same piece of scenery over and over. Now run the other direction past the same piece of scenery over and over.
That's a Doctor Who tradition.
Because in other ones, it seems like, okay, there's a massive underground tunnel to part of a city. This is just the same room, and it felt that way no matter how they shot it.
Yeah, they probably
But the
could.
staircase is right there, and you know it.
It's a tomb. Not going to be that big.
But later on, they say, they got lost down there or something. They can't find a way
yeah,
out.
that's-
Tunnels.
So it just...
They probably couldn't back the camera up further than
Right.
10, 20 feet. All that being said, though, I thought that they did block it very well when Jamie pretends to go. He thinks he's going to go one way, but he goes the other way. They really made a point to make it as clear as possible.
They are trying to use everything that they can on the budget that they
Oh,
have.
totally. I thought it was very inventive with what they worked with. I just found what they worked with to be quite funny.
I agree with you.
Victoria returns with Hopper and Jim Callum. They try to figure out how to open the hatch. Captain wakes up and pulls a gun on them, but gets distracted and the men gain the upper hand. They open the hatch and Hopper goes down to find the others. Hopper throws smoke grenades at the Cybermen as everyone, except for Toberman, escapes through the hatch. They lock Captain and Klieg away in the testing room. Yes, the weapons testing room. Since they have threatened and killed members of the crew. The Cybermen have captured Toberman and use the Cybermats to alter his mind. The Cybermats make their way up to the main control room and surround the expedition team. Jim shoots and kills one of them while the Doctor uses a power cable to short out the rest of the creatures.
So many things here.
Before you get into things in depth, but I just have Jim, the co-pilot. He's an idiot. I don't have a specific reason why, just he's an idiot.
Also not a great shot. It takes him 3 shots to kill the thing. Where Victoria has
Who's
one
never
shot
held
gets
it?
it.
She's never held this type of a gun, and she gets it in one.
Good for her.
You can obviously see the wire on Toberman when he's being thrown by the Cybermen.
Again, you wouldn't have on the initial broadcast.
Sure,
But it is funny.
it looks hilarious.
But when you're taking notes and not quite looking at that moment, it looked pretty good how quickly he picked them up, and then you watch it again. Oh, I missed that.
Either that or that was a film scratch that they forgot to get rid of.
A film sketch that followed him.
The hatch. I mean,
that hatch gets a lot of work.
Yeah, but there's like these holes around it. Certain movements of people and the camera, it looked like somebody was underneath the hatch to me. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I think it's the reflective material that is reflecting the actor outside of the hatch. So it looked weird at one point, like somebody was there, like, okay, are they going to open it? I need to move.
I don't know. I didn't notice.
Yeah, I just also noticed how it's kind of jerky and
Very jerky.
Yeah,
it's like, okay,
Everything's
who's
made out of wood.
controlling Cybermen.
all the levers. And the
Oh
whole,
my
I mean,
goodness!
It was kind of the buttons.
You could never push those buttons.
Yeah, like everything was kind of neat design, but when you heard it clunking around, like this, everything's supposed to be metal, and everything sounded like wood.
It like they should have put some sort of cloth at the end of each lever so it didn't make that. There's just like little things that I'm thinking of
Especially
now.
if you're going to use them so much. This should have been, Doctor Who and the pulling of levers.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire plot is surrounding pull the lever here, pull the lever
I mean,
there,
I don't know
pull the lever here.
exactly how they edited it and what the video editing was like back then, but you just need some sound effects over that stuff.
That would have fixed that whole thing for me.
Is this the scene where Jamie gets force lightninged?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
You get shot.
It's just kind of like, oh, look, he got zapped.
That looks terrible.
I did like Victoria thinking really quickly, they didn't show a lot of it, but her scream played on Captain's fear that Cybermen
Yes.
because it already attacked her. And so she just screams and totally distracts Captain, who turns around.
Yeah, because she fakes her out, right?
Brilliant.
Because doesn't she like look over there? That was why she
Yeah,
screamed.
she looks and screams, and it's not a big setup like you would now. You'd see her eyes darting back and forth, going, "Oh, I have an idea! Look!" But no, she just did it, and I liked that it just happened.
This is interesting because I think the way the Cybermat jumps onto the table, then onto her shoulder, is through wires, right? That's got to be the way they did
no,
that.
when it gets on the table, I think they sped up the film. They took
from the
frames
shoulder,
out.
but from the shoulder.
The shoulder was, you could see there was a wire there.
It's just weird that one is it's harder to see than the one on Toberman. But
Right.
I guess it's the way they lit it because they have to light him from above.
That's the one thing I didn't like, how the Cybermats, like how they transformed his mind.
That's where I think they have the hypno wall, because the Cybermats were trying to get Silverman to relieve fear. They're trying to manipulate the brain, so they need to get rid of their fear, because that's one thing that they want to get rid of.
Oh, so basically they go into that room, they lose their fear, so they're not afraid to go down there, and then they just give up when they wake
I think
them up.
partly that was the testing area. So that could be why they have the Cybermats. It's
Right.
like, use the Cybermats to get rid of his fear. That's what they're planning. So I think that was part
Oh, so
of
that's
the
all they
whole,
did to him at that point?
And yeah, because then they move him later on, and they work on him, his physical body.
Oh.
And then later on,
I thought he was
later on they do another mind control of Toberman. So I think that was all part of it.
Right.
In that, since it's a testing room, they were testing all this, seeing how it works, so they can utilize it in the Cybermats and in the controller.
That makes total sense now. I did not pick up on that, but that makes sense to me. I like it.
It may not be, but that's fine.
No, yeah,
it is
Translation.
now.
I like it.
I did like when they throw the smoke grenades. It's like, smoke, what? Smoke. And suddenly the Cybermen can't do anything but walk in circles.
I'm like, they could filter through that, whatever, if they're that powerful.
But Captain Hopper reminded me of McCoy. Damn it, Jim! I need those smoke bombs. And it just sort of the way he said it, because he's talking to Jim, it just came off in that same cadence.
Well, let me tell you, I got an idea right here.
We gotta get
I'm
off.
going to go down there and I'm going to throw some smoke grenades.
I reckon.
For Pete's sake.
Yeah.
We gotta get off this crummy planet.
There's a scene here with the doctor and Victoria where
It's wonderful.
she talks about her dad and how her dad was killed by a Dalek, and then the doctor kind of commiserates with her, I guess, because when they doubt, Victoria doubts if he can even remember his family because he's so old. The doctor says that if he really wants to, he can remember them, and that the rest of the time they sleep in his mind because he has so much to think about and to remember.
But I think he also is talking about grief that all of us will go through.
Yeah.
When we lose somebody. And it's somebody that she just lost recently in the last episodes.
And it's nice how he's able to help her in his
Saying
own
that
way.
It's what a lot of people say.
Yeah.
You know, it does get better with time. You'll not forget, but some of the pain goes away, and there may be a day you don't remember. And that first time you don't remember, you don't wake up with that.
Yeah.
It's devastating when you do. It's like, how could I have gone on living without remembering this? And that's just heartbreaking. And so this is done in that time period. So it's not as melodramatic that we would have it now. But it is saying they're always there, but they're sleeping. And you can bring them back when you want
it,
to.
when you need them.
And that'll happen. A great scene, I thought, between the two.
Yeah, I would have never thought that would have been in there, but I'm glad they put it in there.
No, I'm very happy that it was one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
And there's that great moment with the doctor. Well, what happened to them, doctor? Oh, it looks like they had a complete mental breakdown. And you see Jamie behind him. Oh. And the doctor, oh, I'm so sorry, Jamie. I mean, again, great little character moment.
That reminded me earlier of when they're sitting in the weapons testing room, and he goes, "Everybody get away from there, except you, Jamie."
Jamie, you stay.
And I thought that was, again, going back to what you were saying about how they're familiar with each other. And
Yeah, they're friends.
Yeah, it's
These are
great.
two
It's a
really
great-
good friends where it's like, you know, you could almost see Jamie saying, "Oh, doctor, do you want to take that back?"
Yeah.
Well, they're mates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, you want to mate?
No, a mate.
Oh, because there's not going to be any mating here. Yes, that was my terrible Catherine Tate impersonation.
But what was nice, Victoria was on guard duty alone with the gun. Everyone else is sleeping. So they have
pretending to
her
sleep.
being on guard duty, and she was supposed to wake the doctor a half hour ago, but still stayed on guard duty. So I think that was nice. That she's
Doesn't
in
she say
charge.
you needed to rest?
You needed to sleep?
Yeah.
So either that, or maybe Jamie was supposed to be with her and fell asleep. Who knows? But
Yeah.
she was alone doing the guard duty, and it was the Cybermans came when the doctor was doing the guard duty. So she should have stayed on. She would have seen it.
Yeah, right.
I liked this part when the doctor was grabbing the tube to keep the cybermats away. I know they can jump, but it reminded me of if any of you have ever had a Roomba or have known anybody with a Roomba. Like, that's all you have to do to block off anything, just the smallest physical barrier, and they can't handle it. But then, of course, he energized it, and
It's like a line of chalk with ants.
yeah.
Klieg and Captain use the weapon left in the room to break out and shoot Jim.
Shocking.
They believe they can still make a deal with the Cybermen and open the hatch. Klieg shouts down 3 times a demand to speak with the controller.
Who knew that the controller's name was Beetlejuice? Beetlejuice.
The controller and partially converted Toberman emerge from the hatch as the rest of the Cybermen go back into the tombs. Their power is low and needs to be recharged, but they cannot get to the recharging room upstairs. The controller agrees to give Klieg some power devices so he can conquer Earth in exchange for access to the recharging station. Once the controller is fully recharged, he mentally instructs Toberman to attack Klieg. Since Cybermen do not make deals, the controller kills Captain. Seeing her dead, and with some inspiring words from the doctor, Toberman regains enough humanity to attack and incapacitate the controller.
That's a pretty dangerous special effect, that gun.
I mean, Frank will disagree with me, but I think that is my favorite practical effect of this story because I don't like the post...
The waves. The electric
waves, yeah, I don't like any of that. But this one, it's the ping pong ball being shot out of like a lighting gun because like the other one where they're in the testing room, the barrel of that weapon doesn't match up with where the light comes from because it's added afterwards. And then with this gun, it actually matches the barrel.
Yeah. Well, whatever they did, I mean, there was real fire, real smoke
Yeah, there was
on
smoke,
a person.
yeah.
So the gun part of the effect was dangerous. But
Yeah.
whatever was in the mix there, I felt like, wow, that's where a lot of money was spent.
Yeah, Captain really gets a smoky death.
Yeah.
She's just
Yeah.
it's pouring out of every pore of her is the smoke. It's like, oh, the actress is really happy right now.
And
I like the gun. I don't disagree with you on that, but the ping pong ball goes 4 feet to the right of where the explosion happened.
I didn't even notice.
well, maybe the ping pong ball is the casing that's ejected from the gun.
There you
Okay, there you go. All right.
Wow.
Geek logic.
Who knew that, when you're fighting a controller and you pick him up and you throw him, he's surprisingly squishy.
Surprisingly light. You have a dummy death.
Yeah, a little squishy because he's just like folding all over the place.
And also, why help the controller?
Yeah, that was my problem.
I'm like, what?
I understand.
What?
You put him in the recharging chamber. Why? He's already
Well, I can understand putting him in the recharging chamber to trap him, but don't turn on the recharger.
yeah, that's what I was like. Why turn that on?
Yeah, that made no sense.
Or not turn it off. It's like
Yeah.
the
Or
doctor
not
should
turn it
know
off.
how to
Yes.
turn it off.
It's either don't turn it off and let him explode from too much energy, or don't turn it on at all.
But I think that's what they're trying to do, give him too much energy.
It's not clear though.
but-
It's not clear.
What?
They do mention the timing. There's like a timing thing that it automatically turned off.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
they
right.
did,
That's
yes.
right. The doctor, puts the Cyberman, the controller, in the revitalizing chamber. Because this
weird.
was then Jamie tries to tie him up.
Right.
To keep
Yeah.
it
Yeah, and
closed.
The doctor has another snap.
yeah.
Like I need to
Teach you how to do.
when we're
Teach you
done.
how to do your knots.
Yeah, when we're done with this, we're gonna learn your knots.
which is very
But the
funny.
machine's going on, and that's revitalizing the controller. And I think
Who turned the machine on?
I don't know.
It was on before they got in the room, but then they locked him in, but didn't turn off the revitalization before.
But I think
was
you're
too
right,
late.
where the doctor is trying to overpower him and then have him explode. But there was a timer already set up, and that's what they were saying. Oh, now he is fully charged, and it turned itself off.
Maybe that's what I was thinking. It was like the doctor
It's
was
not
trying
clear.
to do something
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
board, but it wasn't working, and then he busted out of there.
It's not clear, so that's something I have to point out. But if we didn't have that, we wouldn't get the controller breaking out of styrofoam.
Yeah.
And that makes up for all of that.
But that's also, I understand it, but it's like,
It's
but you
tinfoil
can't
and...
revitalize any of the other Cybermen now. This is the only one we've seen.
Yeah.
Maybe there were other rooms. So it's just funny that the only thing that can revitalize them, hey, it breaks out of, no problem, we'll build a new one.
But it's styrofoam and tinfoil. It's so obvious.
He did start moving a lot faster afterwards.
That's
Yeah, he
true.
did.
That's
like
true.
he was a lot stronger afterwards.
So logically it works, but still.
That was some acting there.
And they only showed the 3 Cybermats that they sent up at the near the beginning.
Yeah, they need a little
But
push.
there was at times I counted there were 7 of them that
Yeah.
had died.
Yeah.
At least in one shot.
there was a
So
couple shots-
I wanted to know how many there actually were of these.
I think you were supposed to think there were a ton coming up at them.
Right.
But you really only saw 1 or 2 at a time, maybe 3. But there was a shot where there was at
Right.
least 5.
Yeah, there were, 7 when they were all
And that's, okay,
dead.
and
That's all.
that's when I was started thinking, like, are we supposed to? I guess they kept coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they're like rats. If you see one, you know you've got a lot
Yeah,
more.
Or
they never had a.
cockroaches.
I know we're supposed to suspend our disbelief because the Cybermats didn't seem threatening, but they just needed at least one shot. It was more than an ankle-high threat
Right.
that moved so slow a baby could outrun it.
Yeah.
Well, they did have that one beauty shot of it where it was like close up to it and
Yeah,
its
its
eyes
eyes
were.
Just the eyeballs.
Ooh, it was
That sound design bugged me. It's just too present. They needed to kick back on that a little.
Another thing about Victoria is that she told Clegg and Captain, yeah, there's another weapon in that room. Just messing with them and going, they were going to run in there going, wait, if they have a weapon, we have to be prepared. So it just distracted them again. It just, she thinks of good things. I
Yeah,
like how
yeah.
she is portrayed in this.
Yeah.
The Doctor and Toberman descend into the hatch once again to be certain the other Cybermen are dormant. Klieg recovers and sneaks down after them, planning to reawaken the Cybermen and become their new controller. The first Cyberman he releases kills him. Toberman destroys it, and the Doctor freezes the tomb again, hopefully for good. Do you notice the Doctor won't take the gun to go down into the hatch?
Yeah, that's
no,
great.
He's not going to take it again.
I did find it funny that Klieg was like, I have a gun, now they'll listen to me. This
Right.
large, physically large threat, and he had this gun.
That reminded me of before Captain gets killed. The Cyberman opens the hatch, goes to the hatch, and she just closes the hatch with the lever.
Right.
I'm just like, did you not think of that before?
Was this our foamy Cyberman
This was
death?
foamy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Foamy Cyberman death.
Oh, right.
Was that the thing that people had a problem with?
yes.
I thought
That
so.
was the BBC got complaints saying that was too
Yeah.
graphic
The shaving cream coming out of the...
for television.
It
for
was
children.
pretty graphic. I was like, what is this? All this stuff coming out of the Cyberman? And did he
Yeah.
kind of pull off
Sort
his
of.
own chest plate to be like injured?
Yeah,
Right. I think so.
And then they had the little plastic thing. I think that was keeping the chemicals locked in, and you can kind of see it.
You had to mix it.
How did he
Yeah.
get killed again?
Was this Toberman?
It might have been Toberman. I don't remember, but I just
Yeah,
remember.
Toberman kills it.
And then-
Doesn't Toberman pick it up and throw it down?
Yeah, and yes, he opens his own wound, but that's just to activate it. But it was supposed
Yeah.
to be, he got thrown down,
Yeah,
and he's like,
and
oh, the
it-
wound's open now. Oh, let me open it so that the
Yeah.
effect
And that
happens.
was-
Because to us, it looks cheesy. I wonder what it really looked like back then.
Well, the animated one, they animated a little different, but...
But because of what you could see and how the size of it, did you recognize it as shaving cream or Bobby and Cindy putting too much soap in the washing machine? Or did it look,
But
ooh,
it was a
things are
different
coming
time.
out?
I mean, that's just what happened in,
Just
in
more
those days.
parents not wanting to take responsibility for teaching their kids this is make believe.
When you kill a Cyberman,
Yes.
shaving
the
cream comes
panel.
out.
Nothing. But back to what you're saying, Josh, about the animated ones. The Moonbase, the second appearance of the Cybermen. I believe episodes 2 and 3 of that serial are animated because they're lost.
Right.
So only 1 and 4 are live
So, but
action.
what were you saying about the special effect?
They've animated that too, where the foam comes out of the Cybermen.
But that was animated in
yeah.
recent times.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's still there.
Oh, yeah.
That's a thing.
Another great moment of the second Doctor is his
Thinking the
test.
same thing.
His test of Klieg.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where he's like, where he's trying to like.
He plays up all of what Klieg really wants to rule the world. Everything's going to be wonderful. How is this going to be? No one will have a different thought than what you have. It's going to be so harmonious.
Okay, so now I know you're truly mad and you are all crazy. Okay, good. I mean, that was a great little moment where it's like, I've tried. You're beyond redemption. You've
done.
gotten us in trouble. People are dying. Good.
We're
All
done.
right.
When I have just seen little bits and pieces of the old classic Doctors, they look so silly, and they're old. And I always have a thought. I don't know if I'm gonna buy it. I don't know if I'm gonna buy it. It's gonna be too silly. But every time I watch it, they sell me on it, and they're just so interesting and compelling to watch.
Yeah, they really do put a little bit more effort into it than Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And it is with a little bit more, which is why it's lasted so long.
Yeah.
And the other Saturday morning shows don't.
Captain Hopper says that the ship is fixed, and as everyone leaves, the Doctor and Jamie stay behind to reset the electric booby traps. The controller wakes up and begins to attack.
I'm not quite dead yet.
The Doctor and Jamie make it outside, but the controller is pushing against the doors, keeping them open. Toberman uses his cyber strength to close them, completing the electric circuit. The doors electrify, killing Toberman and the controller. Everyone leaves to go back to the ship or the TARDIS, unaware that one of the Cybermats has snuck out of the city and made its escape.
I don't know why. When Toberman was dead, they never showed him on the ground.
Until the very end.
At the very end, they did.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cybermat and Toberman, who was part Cyberman. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
they-
but I think they showed his whole body.
Well,
Yeah.
but he was
He was
dead.
lying
You
down.
don't want to disturb the audience.
And I noted it because of all the other people that died outside. They took their bodies back to the ship.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
one
And
is
Toberman,
bye.
they're just leaving him there.
Yeah.
Like,
But also, those other people were part of the crew.
Sure.
And Toberman was.
So he was
A person who literally saved their lives just now.
Oh, okay, you're right.
yeah, there should have been some explanation, like that's radioactive or something.
I think for the sake of the story, they had the shot of Toberman that panned up to the drawing of the Cybermen. So that was the
horror
symbolism
movie
that they were
ending.
doing. But it was like, yes, Toberman's final sacrifice, and you couldn't take his body back
Right.
for a proper burial.
Right.
Like,
It's it's not good.
As far as rating systems or whatever, too, like you were saying, might be too graphic. Is that why they pretty much hid the mechanical arm that he had when he was assimilated?
I don't know. I was just messing with you.
I think it's because of the makeup effects weren't that great.
It didn't look right.
Yeah.
I think that's why they had to
Oh, really?
put a
cloak.
Because he didn't have the cloak most of the time. And then
Right.
it's like, it's not working. Put the cloak over it. You
cloak
can still
over
see
it.
the hand,
Yeah.
but the
I don't know, that I kind of didn't like is that he didn't get changed enough into his.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I do think that was practical reasons. I think they either couldn't have the time for it, they didn't have the money for it.
Right. Well,
It happens again, too, in Attack of the Cybermen with the Sixth Doctor. Other humans are half converted and not fully converted.
just their arm. Do they have
Like
more
their
gizmos
chest,
on them?
yeah.
But it reminds me of Face Off, the show.
Nicolas Cage movie?
The show.
No, the makeup competition show.
Remember your audience.
I'm sorry. And they're occasionally they run out of time and can't do it, and they put the cloak on the character. It's like, well, we needed the face, we needed this.
Right.
We're just going to cover up the rest of it.
all right.
So I think just because it looked different, that's what happened on this. They just
Yeah,
ran
I
out of
just
some
don't- yeah,
reason.
I
It
completely
didn't work
agree.
right, or didn't have time to do it properly.
Do you have any information on the guy who played Toberman?
There was, in the initial draft of the script, Toberman was supposed to be deaf and mute,
Oh.
which is kind of probably the origins of why he's not very talkative.
Right.
And he acts very racially bad. But yeah, so that went away. I don't know why they went away, but
Well, they had to communicate with him.
yeah, but I mean, Kafkan, they could have thrown in a line of she has the way of communicating with him, which is why she seems to be the only one who ever really communicates with him until
Right.
the end.
Right.
The only information I have on Toberman, the actor that played him is Roy Stewart, and he was from Jamaica. He was in Live and Let Die.
Oh, yeah?
That's about as all as I remember
That's a good one.
from his filmography.
Racial stereotypes, but that's a good one.
He was in one episode of Space 1999.
Oh, I love that show.
I knew you would.
I do kind of like the Cybermen go back into their tombs and you kind of get that creepy effect. But it's kind of like, okay, reverse the film, problem solved. They're reversing the film, but it's kind of cool.
Kind of cool because they're frozen.
I admit it. I liked it. I also think it's interesting that the doctor's like, okay, I'm going to reset all of these booby traps that kill people.
You want that again? Really?
Thank you, doctor.
Put a do not disturb sign outside.
Yeah. Some sort of
Because
warning.
not only one, but he sets up 3.
Hey,
Yeah.
the Enterprise would put warning satellites in orbit, warning people away.
To me, this is just part of logic. If the Doctor knows the Cybermen are down there and that they're dangerous, why does he help them open the doors? He should like let them go away and then do something to.
You mean the beginning?
In the very beginning. It's just one of those things you think about later.
I think the Doctor knows something's going on here. I don't think he knows
Exactly.
what's down there, and he wants to find out. So he's helping them to do this so he can get all the information he can, find out what's really happening. Why? It's because if he stops them at this point, he doesn't know why they're there, what their goal is.
That's sort of what I was feeling in the beginning too. Like, why are they keep doing it? But I also got the impression that the Doctor was almost like, well, they can't be a threat now because I've gotten rid of them. This is odd.
And if there is a new problem with them, I need to fix it.
Yeah,
No,
that's
I
true,
get
too.
that.
You know, I mean, and the Doctor, when he arrives in something, he really does kind of consider himself part of the events. So he's going to let them proceed and let them
And
carry
I
it.
understand that, but for me, it's just like this is something dangerous. You see the Cybermen hieroglyphics really prominent on those doors.
Yeah.
I guess I'm coming at it from the fact that he values life, so he wouldn't want all those people to die. Having watched it multiple times, questions do come up and things like, why is only freezing the Cybermen going to hide them from the Doctor? It should be more than that.
Yeah,
you know?
my little gripe is, why didn't he destroy them?
Yeah, that too.
Why is just what happened okay? But whatever.
Because they didn't have stock footage that would have matched the tomb.
Or that didn't match a tomb that they could use.
Like said, you're not just putting them to sleep, you are freezing them. And so it seemed like he was hopefully killing them
Yeah.
in that effect. Because I don't think he had the other
Yeah, and he set the booby trap.
machines to do that, to actually blow them up or anything.
I guess I have the later years of the Cybermen in my head. Like, you can't let any iota
Right.
of a threat squeak through any crack
Like what
possibility
Dalek can do.
whatsoever. Exactly. So I have that threat. But like I said in the very beginning of the episode, when I saw them going, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Speaking of this serial, The Tomb of the Cybermen was nearly lost for 25 years until a complete copy was recovered in 16mm format from TV Asia in Hong Kong in 1992.
Oh my God, that's what this was discovered from?
Yeah.
Reconstructed from?
Yes.
Wow.
and with the jobs that Eugene and I have, I can totally see how it would be lost for 25 years.
Yeah.
But the restoration looked pretty good.
Oh, it
I thought
looked
it was
great.
amazing. It was like, you did
yeah.
really well bringing this back.
The featurette, they do a side-by-side comparison. It's really
really?
impressive. Fraser Hines, who played Jamie, flirted with Caftan, Shirley Cooklin, and she was married to Peter Bryant, the producer of Doctor Who at the time. And she had been on the set several times as the girlfriend, but now she's in makeup with a wig, and he was just flirting with her. And
You didn't know it was her?
Yeah, and she goes like, "You know me." He's like, "Oh." So I think that's funny. He mentions that on the commentary.
And he was wearing a kilt. The breeze made him randy.
I knew we wouldn't get through this without a kilt joke.
So close.
So close.
So this serial is available on the DVD Tomb of the Cybermen by itself with all the special features and featurettes that I mentioned, but it's also on the Doctor's Revisited set. It's the second Doctor's story that they pair up with the retrospective documentary.
That BBC America made.
Yes.
Yeah, for the 50th. It's also available on Vudu as part of the Vudu has two sections. It has classic Doctor Who, but then there's also a Doctor Who sampler. The Tomb of the Cybermen are under the Doctor Who sampler for the second Doctor. But it doesn't have any of the extras.
Yeah, so, I kind of like the extras. There's commentary, like I mentioned, from Victoria and Jamie.
And that's on the Revisited, the Doctor?
No.
Oh.
The one by itself.
Oh.
Because they talk about
Like-
Tomb of the Cybermen a lot with the second Doctor, because it's pretty much his most famous episode.
Yeah. It's Tomb of the Cybermen. Final thoughts?
I like it.
Yeah, I liked it. I had a lot of fun. It was interesting and cool seeing the second Doctor, one of the old Doctors, getting acquainted with the classic series that I really had no idea about until I started doing this with you guys.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I would probably recommend it to a fan of the current show or even just a fan of sci-fi in general. The story I think it would fit a modern day storytelling.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a little slow, but the character motivations and the plot itself is very modern.
It's also good to see, like, for film history's sake, TV history's sake, to see everything we were talking about, the production values and how they dealt with it and what was accepted back then and all the technical specifications that we were talking about. It's good for that reason as well.
I agree with you, Alvin, that it is similar to a modern story. It's a good storyline. Their timing's a little bit different, so even the banter between Jamie and the Doctor goes a lightning fast at times, where they would play it up a little bit more now. But it's a great dynamic, great set of characters. It shows who the Doctor is and the similarities that run through who the Doctor is and all the different reincarnations. It's like, I'm liking the second Doctor a lot more. He's moving up on my list. I mean, Jamie almost feels in Jamie's head like he's an equal to the Doctor. And you can just get that from this. When he was in with the one guy explaining all of, I had his name.
That's fine.
Is that like the red shirt?
Hayden.
Oh, Hayden.
Hayden. Thank you. So he's in with Hayden, and Hayden starts explaining all of the technical reasons why there's light in this room. And Jimmy says, yeah, whatever. I don't need to know all the technical stuff, just, the basic stuff. So I think it's a good character who, from the 1700s, isn't fazed by all this. It's like, things work back then, things work now, for basic reasons, and he goes along with it. So I think it's a good, companion to have. I think that's why everybody liked Jamie.
I think maybe what surprised me why I like these earlier Doctors as much as I do is that just looking at them in clips and pictures, they look like sidekicks. They don't look like the hero of the show. But then, so when I'm actually watching them, they're extremely interesting.
I'm kind of reaching the point where the second Doctor is higher up on my list of favorite Doctors than the ninth. I know.
You can have your own opinion.
I know.
No matter how wrong it is.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I really, really like the second Doctor. Since the second Doctor was the first new Doctor, he and the writers specifically went a different direction. They really wanted to stand apart from the first Doctor. And the characterization of this second Doctor, the way he is, his curiosity, his eccentricities.
And his flute. We didn't get to that in this episode, but he has a flute.
But he has a quirky possession, set the tone for every Doctor after it. This is how you play a renegade Time Lord from Gallifrey. Even Matt Smith says he steals mannerisms of the second Doctor. You see Matt Smith, he's constantly rubbing his hands together. He'll tell you flat out, I stole that from Patrick Troughton. Patrick Troughton made the Doctor fun.
And I think for me, the Tomb of the Cybermen has everything that I like to talk about in things. It's old, it's older, it has history, it's black and white, it's older film production. And you see the wires, you see the stagecraft, the obvious stagecraft, and yet the story is compelling. The characters are compelling. They're selling it 200% to you. And you have to look at it through the lens of this was made back then and not this was made for HD 16:9. This was made for 4:3 tube TVs. And what they did back then was great, and the limitations that they had. And so I think that the Tomb of the Cybermen, there's a reason this is one of the ones that people put on lists of things to watch from classic Doctor Who. But yet, I still like making fun of it. I still like pointing out the flaws, because that's just what it is.
It's also what we do on the modern show, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it didn't have that, I'd be like, this is all right. So that wraps up Classic Who, Tomb of the Cybermen. We'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook
At The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by our very own Auburn.
Find me at alburnbinkley.com.
You can find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcasts.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
You can leave comments there or email us at
whoknewpodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
the longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman.
Verity Lambert.
Ron Grainer.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.
Curious
Yeah,
about that.
I have no insight into that.
I know, I'm not asking you. No, I'm looking forward to more of these.
We'll try to give you good ones.
Yeah.
This is a good story arc.
Yes.